Number 10. Phoenix Saga. Although now we just look back at the Phoenix Saga as being a part of history, at the time it was shocking. Jean Grey merged with a cosmic force that saved her from dying in outer space, attracting the presence we have come to know as the Phoenix Force. This Phoenix Force would later be revealed to now be a part of Jean, granting her great power. She became known as having the power of a god and then turned dark and became an insane supervillain, and then she died. And she had been one of the founding members of the X-Men. This was big stuff. Of course, Jean wouldn't stay dead, which would end up only shocking readers even more in the future when she did return, especially as it meant that Cyclops would abandon his happy home life with Jean's clone, Madeline Pryor, who he had married and kinda also had a child with. Bad Scott Summers, bad Scott. Number 9. Death of Hulk. The difference between Jean's death during the Dark Phoenix Saga and that of Hulk's death during Civil War II is one felt at least like it was kinda coming from somewhere. We all knew that Bruce Banner at the time had been working to cure himself of his Hulk transformation. Amadeus Cho had ended up even trying to help his friend by trying to remove the gamma radiation from Bruce and take it into himself, turning him into the totally awesome Hulk, a more emotionally balanced version of the hero. Bruce Banner even gave Hawkeye a special Hulk-killing arrow in case he ever began to transform once more, and instructed that Hawkeye should kill him should that come to pass. However, we don't really learn about this until after Hawkeye has done the deed. Instead, a tense argument with Bruce is interrupted by his swift death. Of course, Bruce Banner and his Hulk would be back, but at the moment he died, readers were likely thinking, wait, did I just read that right? Did Bruce's companion and friend Clint Barton just kill him? And yes, he did. He did do that. Even he was shocked. Number 8. Death of Wolverine. The death of an unkillable and one of the most popular heroes? This one caught a lot of people off guard initially, and likely helped to boost sales just from that title alone. Everyone wanted to know how Wolverine's story would end. Of course, once again, this is comics, so Wolverine's death would not end up being permanent. Because, yeah, he is one of the most popular characters, so obviously we're not gonna let him stay dead. In the end, it was adamantium that was Wolverine's undoing. The very thing that had made him so tough over the years also ended up killing him. Wolverine was without his healing factor after a microverse virus deactivated it, and learned that, well, there was also a bounty on his head. While other brilliant minds rushed to fix Wolverine's healing factor, Logan was resigned to his fate, not showing any desire for having it brought back. He tracked down the one responsible for the bounty on his head, and during the confrontation ended up rushing to save Weapon X test subjects and victims from having the deadly adamantium bonding process that he had actually gone through years before. Slashing the tanks of adamantium caused him to become covered in the liquid metal, which hardened and encased him, suffocating and killing him. What a way to go. But like I said, he would return. And with random burning hot claws to boot. Never forget that he has hot claws, though they never really come up. Number 7. Nick Fury becomes a Watcher. Basically the story here is that the villain known as Orb, working with a few other villains, was jealous of Uatu the Watcher and decided to shoot him and steal his eye so that he could have the power of a Watcher. However, when Nick Fury found out about this tragedy, he immediately went to investigate, as he did not know who was behind the ordeal. The Watcher actually refused to tell Fury what he knew, as it was not really his role to do so, only to watch and observe, not to interfere, even when he himself had been interfered with. That is some respect right there. He's like, this is my job, that's it, even if I'm kind of bleeding and maybe dying. Because of this, Fury felt he had no choice and killed the Watcher and stole his other eye, which contained Uatu's memories, in order to try to figure out who was responsible for the previous theft and for attacking Uatu. Eventually, Fury managed to get the confession he sought and discovered the Orb was responsible. One of the other villains the Orb had been with at the time, Dr. Midas, returned to the Watcher's Citadel in order to absorb even more power from Uatu's corpse. Fury overloaded him using the power of the eye that was in his possession. This resulted in an explosion that seemingly killed both Midas and Fury, but in the end, it was discovered that Fury had survived. As punishment for his sins, because all of this took place in the original Sin story, the Watchers turned him into Uatu's replacement, forcing him to be the chained observer of Earth known as the Unseen. Number 6. Civil War. Not the second one though, that one was much less of a shock, I think. But the first Civil War got people excited while also amazing them when it first came out. Captain America and Iron Man had always kind of been at odds, but they were also friends and colleagues who had worked side by side for years as part of the Avengers. The notion that these two would be declaring all-out war on the other was pretty huge, especially when it came to the politics of what was going on, where Stark was advocating for his Superhuman Registration Act, or the Superhuman Registration Act. Kinda became his later though. Which would demand more accountability for heroes heroes and would basically make them all government agents. Iron Man believed this could help to prevent potential casualties during world-threatening situations and events. Cap, however, did not believe that superhumans needed to be restricted and stood for freedom of superhumans. In the end, Captain America looked at the damage the war had caused and decided to surrender, but was seemingly assassinated by a time-traveling bullet on his way to prison, which ends the war. I could explain more about the time-traveling bullet, but that would be a whole other video, really. Number 5. Death of the Ultimate Universe. So we all kinda saw this one coming, but it was still shocking. While the ultimate alternate universe of Earth 1610 was one that had a lot of weird problem areas, it also gave us a lot of great and inventive takes on characters and some really cool moments. So despite the fact that it had kind of been run into the ground, many fans were still left flabbergasted when the line was cancelled after years of existing and being considered relatively successful. Sure, we still gotta keep some of our favorite characters from 1610 like Miles Morales and the villainous Reed Richards known as the Maker, but it was still shocking to know that almost everything and everyone else from that universe was gone forever. Even heartbreaking for some. R.I.P. Ultimates. You live on in our dreams. Number 4. Spider-Woman revealed as Skrull Queen. Skrulls have been a known shape-shifting race in the comics since they were first introduced in Fantastic Four issue 2 in the 1960s, but that doesn't mean that their almost completely secret invasion of Earth didn't shock and surprise us. Secret Invasion was an event that made everyone question everything they knew. No one was to be trusted because you didn't know if who you were talking to or even thought you had known for years could secretly have been a Skrull. Needless to say, when it was finally revealed the Skrull Queen had actually been hiding disguised as accomplished Avenger and sometimes detective Jessica Drew, aka Spider-Woman, people were shocked. Even more surprising was the fact that Norman Osborn, of all people, was the one to take her out. Number 3. Gwen Stacy and Norman Osborn's ship. During the Sins Past story, it was revealed that Gwen Stacy had a secret and kinda creepy relationship with Norman Osborn. Ew. And that this relationship resulted in the birth of 2 twins. Osborn had sent Stacy to Paris to birth the 2 twins, and this all happened before, I believe, her relationship with Peter. After her death, the existence of her and Osborn's children remained unknown to Peter, but Osborn convinced the twins, whom he raised in secret, that Spider-Man was both their father and also responsible for their mother's death, turning them into his own minions and goblins. This whole story is pretty shocking and is very icky. Number 2. Captain America becomes Hydra Supreme. The Cosmic Cube became a sentient entity resembling a little girl known as Kobik. S.H.I.E.L.D. had hoped to use the shards that created her form to manipulate reality as they saw fit. Unfortunately, this plan did not work out for them. Red Skull managed to influence the girl into warping reality to turn Captain America into a long-time Hydra sleeper agent. And so we got the shocking story where it was revealed that all this time Cap had been working for the evil organization of Hydra. That one panel where Cap says "Hail Hydra"? Yeah, that was a real thing that happened. Cap would actually succeed in infiltrating and conquering the United States government, becoming the reigning Hydra Supreme, but would later be defeated by main continuity Captain America, who still lived within the Cosmic Cube. This version of Cap would return and defeat his alternate evil self. Whew. Thank goodness. Number 1. Miss Marvel's surprise pregnancy. I wish this was a shocking moment that I could forget, and yet I cannot. And I cannot also believe that someone greenlit this story. We learn in issue 197 of Avengers that Carol Danvers as Miss Marvel is pregnant. Not only that, but her pregnancy seems to be progressing along at an alarmingly quick rate. Carol is scared, but is reassured by Wanda, to whom she revealed her secret identity, that she is an Avenger, which means she has a group of friends who will stand by her no matter what. Unfortunately, what that ends up meaning is a group of friends who actually don't really seem to listen to her, celebrating the pregnancy and kind of shaming Carol somewhat for not being happier about it, despite the fact that Carol is terrified and has no earthly idea how this could have happened to her. It's later revealed that her baby, who grows up rapidly and introduces himself as Marcus, is also kind of the man who got her pregnant, or an extension of him anyways, who had to do so in order to use her body as a means of escaping limbo, but then realizes that his presence in the world is too dangerous. What a great plan you had. He ends up returning to limbo, but Carol for some reason decides to come with him so that he won't be alone. At no point do the Avengers really listen to Carol or check in with her or try to help her when she's obviously being manipulated by Marcus, who even confesses that he manipulated her to begin with. Thankfully, Chris Claremont at least wrote an Avengers annual a year later calling out how shockingly bad this story was. Thank you, Claremont.
Number 10. Black Canary. We're starting things off in the Injustice universe. This universe was spawned from the fighting game tie-in comic. So in it, the heroes are divided after Superman begins his dystopian push as he sets up the One Earth regime, a world government, helmed by Superman and those who agree with him, while those who oppose this are set up as part of an underground rebellion. Of the heroes who oppose him, you of course have who you would expect: Batman, and also Green Arrow, Batman Light, and Black Canary. Don't yell at me, it's fine, it's true, it's fine. When hanging out in the Arrow Cave, Harley Quinn, who at this point has had a change of heart and is helping Green Arrow by doing things like renaming his Arrow Cave the Quiver, gets into a fight with Black Canary. And the two are fighting quite intensely until Black Canary suddenly doubles over asking for a bucket, because fictional pregnancies are usually far more dramatic than real ones. Fun fact, for a lot of women, if you are experiencing morning sickness which leads to vomiting, which not all women do, it usually happens at the same time each day, so you can kind of plan your life accordingly. It's also not always in the morning. Just life facts for the comic I'll never write, featuring a realistic boring pregnancy. So she gets the bucket, throws up in it, and Harley figures out that she's pregnant, and the two bond over it, for Harley has been pregnant in this universe as well. Harley would go on to babysit their child and be a great friend to their family. Number 9. Hawkgirl, DCAU. This is an implied pregnancy. Still counts. So in the DC animated universe, Hawkgirl and Green Lantern John Stewart had a deep relationship. It was a huge part of their arcs. The build up to it took seasons and was a huge final moment, and also the moment when her helmet was taken off and she was revealed to be gorgeous. I've never recovered. However, their love was shattered when she was revealed to be a traitor, a scout for the Thanagarian invasion force. That puts a damper on any relationship, even if she would defect to save her new friends. For some, that just made her a traitor twice over. But her and John still clearly had feelings for each other, and in a Batman Beyond episode, it was hinted that they would have a child. This was also hinted in a time travel episode in Justice League Unlimited. This is because Warhawk of that team in the future was their son, but he didn't reveal anything when he went back in time because he didn't want to mess with it, even if it meant he didn't exist. You see? That's how you time travel. Number 8. Superwoman. Reach, reach, reach. She's super low, pun intended, because well, she is from Earth 3, the crime syndicate Earth, where the heroes are villains, etc. However, they don't see it that way. She would play a pivotal role in the Darkseid War arc, or rather her pregnancy and baby would. So on her Earth, she is with Ultraman, but was also having an affair with Alexander Luthor, the hero of that world. She was also cheating on both of them with Owlman too. So when she first got pregnant, she told Ultraman it was his, but then told Owlman it was his, when really it was Mazza's, who is Alexander Luthor, who has the ability to absorb powers of the people he has killed, such as Billy, or on this Earth William Batson, hence his name, Mazza's, which is Shazam backwards. So essentially what happened was she gave birth to the new Darkseid. This is because the baby had its father's abilities to absorb power, so was made to absorb the Omega effect and the anti-life equation. Then she died and was killed. How was this heroic? Well, this would end the war, alongside some coinciding actions. Look, they think they're heroes and they're mauled after them. You're glad you know. Come on. Number 7. Artemis. Kinda. We gotta put it down here because people have been baiting the net with clips for a while. We're gonna be looking at Young Justice for this number. So at the end of season 2 of Young Justice, Wally West was gone, and it was tragic for fans, especially as him and Artemis were a favorite couple. And what with Wally being gone from the New 52, it was all too much for some people. There was even a hashtag for a bit, Justice for Wally. It was an experience. Then Young Justice was cancelled, which was devastating for some fans, as it had ended on a bit of a cliffhanger for certain characters, like Wally. So fans started petitions and made noise, and eventually years later got the series back. Season 3 did finally bring some closure to Wally, but not entirely. However, it did provide a future vision or ideal version of the world for Artemis, and involved her and Wally together with a baby. She was down to be pregnant with Wally's baby. Stop breaking our hearts, Young Justice. Many people felt a bit more lukewarm about season 3 though. Thoughts and feelings, questions, concerns? Share down below. Number 6. Bumblebee. Speaking of Young Justice, we have a more than fantasy birth here with Karen Beecher aka Bumblebee and Mal or Guardian, for a time anyway. Her and Mal were high school sweethearts who hit a bit of a rough patch when she got really invested in her work and kinda took him for granted for a bit, but they got over it. So once she was pregnant, the series used it to dive into a series of tough questions about whether or not their child would be gifted with a meta gene. So if she would have this gene or not, what would it mean, and did they want her to or not? Both eventualities had pros and cons. Karen would give birth in a snowstorm, only for it to be revealed that their daughter had been born with a hole in her heart, which despite just giving birth, Karen shrinks down to fix herself, all while contemplating the nature of her tech-based abilities versus meta ones. It's an interesting discussion, and a deep one, something that Young Justice enjoys doing. Number 5. Wonder Woman. So Wonder Woman got pregnant by Superman. It's happened a few times actually in Elseworld or alternate universe continuity stories. We of course have the sequel to The Dark Knight Returns, The Dark Knight Night Strikes Again. In this we have the now infamously memed panel where her and Clark have sex up in the sky, so hard the earth shakes, and at the end of it Diana announces, "Wow Clark, I'm pregnant again." Quality content. However, there is a less, awkward pregnancy in Kingdom, which is the sequel to Kingdom Come, which is a famous Elseworld story featuring an older crop of heroes led by Superman, who have to return to deal with new younger meta-heroes who are out of control. At the end of that comic, these two, Superman and Wonder Woman, would get together, and in the sequel comic she would give birth to a son who of course they named Jonathan. That's Clark's go-to name, because in so many continuities his dad is dead. In most of them by accident. There's also this panel of Wonder Woman being terrified of being pregnant by Clark in the New 52, and of course it's been cut out and used in some epic thumbs, maybe even in ours. I don't know, I won't know till later. Living life on the edge. Number 4, Venom. Now you could kind of consider the symbiote pregnant when it spawns, but we're going to be looking at a specific instance. And no, it's not Carnage, a more recent iteration. We're going to be looking instead at Mike Costa's run, which had Eddie Brock become pregnant with Venom's baby. Yes, this was an extremely shippy run. And Donny Cates, who had come in after, hated it and made fun of shippers and is now just super aggressive to fans in general. Sad times at Twitter Hive. Eddie didn't know what was happening at first. Here he was, having weird dreams and of course throwing up, and Venom was all, "Nah, don't worry about it, it's all fine." Venom needed the bond this time to be able to spawn, and once Eddie found out, he was super protective of it. And he was keen to make sure the new symbiote was spawned safely. Now everybody was hunting Eddie down, saying this new child was a threat. I mean, look at all the other symbiotes that have been created because of Venom and then the spawn of Venom. But it all seemed to be for nothing as the symbiote was stillborn. But psych, that wasn't true. It lived and has been growing, kidnapped at first by its host. The true child of Venom was meant to be raised up into a hero. They say true. That's why I kind of said it like there were quotes around it. True. Number 3, the Scarlet Witch. Ah, the tale of the Scarlet Witch's children. As much a canonical one as a tale of how some writers on staff hated her and the Vision together. Now Wanda was married to the Vision, who is a synthzoid. So how did this happen? Magic. Yes, they said it was magic. A magical pregnancy. So we would get to have all those traditional pregnant panels with her and Vision, and also get to have the concept that they were his kids. Now later, these kids would be retconned out of existence, only to be retconned back in. Her being pregnant was a big plot point. The whole relationship was. It was all planned out, and as a result, some on staff just got sick of it, especially if they had only been lukewarm on the idea in the first place. The realization that her children had been a manifestation of her own powers would greatly degrade Wanda's mental state, and she would later have a breakdown of epic proportions, first creating the House of M universe and then nearly wiping out all mutants. Later there would be a Lost Children arc, where Wiccan and Speed would believe themselves to be her lost, displaced children and seek her out. And they were indeed Vision's children. Just why? It didn't have to be like this. Number 2, Donna Troy. Donna Troy, aka Wonder Girl, aka Troya, aka Darkstar, aka Leave Her Origin Alone. At one point she was married to a man named Terry Long. Terry was a married college professor who met and fell in love with Donna, leaving his wife, ex-wife, and child for her. Thus would begin a whole Donna balancing being a hero and a normal life arc. Donna would become pregnant quickly, and then a group of Teen Titans would come from the future to kill her baby. This was because he was gonna grow up to become a villain called Lord Chaos. Yup. But Lord Chaos also came back to make sure that his mom gave birth to him, and she did, and named the baby Robert. And at that point the writers seemed to realize, oh no, they'd written themselves into a corner of sorts. So Donna would leave her life as a superhero to raise Robert, but would eventually be lured back in after a series of supervillain attacks. This would drive a wedge between her and her husband, so he would decide to take the baby and leave, and the two would end up getting divorced. But this was another problem. Divorce wasn't that acceptable at the time. A divorced hero? Who could relate to that? Asked the late 80s. And so they fixed it by having him and the baby and the wife all die in a car crash. Isn't that better than her having to deal with the reality many people live of blended families? The 80s thought so. Number 1, Elastigirl. That's right, time to look outside of Marvel and DC to the movie The Incredibles and the awesome hero and mom Elastigirl, who had 3 kids with Mr. Incredible, and who the internet feels is dummy thick. Dem thighs, that's what they say. Her and Mr. Incredible met at the height of their superhero careers, and it was only shortly after that that superheroes would be outlawed because of the lawsuits and the payouts they were causing the city. Helen Parr would at first be more accepting of the changes in their lives, settling into suburbia, but she too would feel the lure of their former heroic life, a lure that would be even more pronounced in the Incredibles sequel, while the first film explored her husband's struggles, but still dealt with what she was dealing with too. It's a very honest look at middle age and deciding to accept your life or change it. I don't know, I love The Incredibles.
In at number 10, Hellcat. Hellcat, aka Patsy Walker, hooked up with the son of Satan once upon a time. Damien Hellstrom and Patsy hit it off as soon as he joined the Defenders, and the two fell in love. Damon was into Patsy because she made him feel loved just by being herself, and helped him become more of, I quote, a son of man than a son of Satan. Oh. And what did Patsy get out of this? Well, she thought he was super hot. Just, oh damn, look at that Satan symbol on his chest. That's what Patsy was probably thinking. This got even weirder when Satan decided he would try to convince the hero that she was his daughter in Defenders issue 111 from 1982. Incestual stuff. Now, despite that strange blip, Patsy and Damon actually got married in Defenders issue 125, which caused Damon to lose his dark soul and become human, which incidentally also killed him. This led to Patsy attempting to save him in Hellstrom, Son of Satan, issue 12, retrieving his dark soul and making Damon a demon again. And it gets weird for them yet again, because after seeing Damon's true form, Patsy couldn't deal and she killed herself. She'd return eventually, as all comic book characters do, except for Uncle Ben. And in Marvel Divas issue 1-4, Damon reappears to Patsy after she's published a tell-all book about her life, and offers to heal her friend Firestar's cancer in exchange for Patsy's soul. And really, it's all just a narcissistic ruse to Damon, who is just pissed off that he was barely mentioned in Patsy's book. So, yeah. Narcissism goes hand in hand with demonic sex. In at number 9, Buffy. Vampires are considered pretty damn demonic in the Buffyverse, and Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, has hooked up with not just one, but 2 vampires, having complicated romantic relationships with Angelus, aka Angel, and Spike over the course of 7 seasons of the TV series, which now continues the story in its comic books. Buffy began a relationship with Angel in the first season of the show, which would implode in the second season when his soul was removed and he reverted back to his homicidal sadistic ways. Being the big bad of that season, the two of them split up and Angel ran off to LA to star in his very own television spin-off, while the two were still kind of always each other's OTP, or as far as Sarah Michelle Gellar is concerned, and also myself. Spike, who was initially supposed to be a one-off villain, ended up sticking around for later seasons of Buffy, and the two began a romance. Spike was tormented by the fact that he had fallen in unrequited love with the Slayer, and after Buffy died and was brought back to life and suffered through a very traumatic season 6, the two would eventually kiss. But it was a pretty toxic relationship, and Spike once sexually assaulted the Slayer, so no bueno. In the end, he sacrificed himself for the greater good, finding himself on Angel's TV show after Buffy's series ended. Plus, her pal Xander was also in a long-term relationship with a demon named Anya, so the whole series just has a whole lot of intermingling when it comes to the supernatural and who gets you off. Willow's a witch. It's really just a metaphor for being gay. And at number 8, Deadpool and 2 people actually for this one, Shikla and Zatanna. So we have our first double offender here on our list. Yes, there are more. Deadpool hasn't hooked up with just one demon, but 2. Let's start off with another child of Satan's, the creatively named Zatanna, who Deadpool saved from the results of a high-stakes poker game with 5 geeky dudes. It turns out these geeky dudes are actually some bigwigs in the demonic world. Specifically, they are Dormammu, Lucifer, Mephisto, and 2 other guys, who wanted to marry the succubus daughter of Satan in order to become the heir to hell. Now, Zatanna lost her soul in said poker game, having to be married to the demon who won, until Deadpool stepped in and married her first. In exchange, she endowed him with powers that let him defeat these demons, causing them to retreat. Zatanna immediately broke it off with the Merc with a Mouth though, keeping half of his soul as part of their divorce. She wasn't the only demon that he's married though. Deadpool had an on and off again relationship with the demon Shikla, who he had been paid to go and fetch after her father had put her in stasis as a means of keeping her safe from Dracula. They got married, but after a bunch of issues arose in their relationship, Shikla would do the unthinkable and ditch DP for the last man that her dad wanted her shacking up with, Dracula himself. It's fine, Deadpool's really in love with Mistress Death, so it's all good. In at number 7, Zatanna and Constantine. So, Constantine classifies as part demon. He once got a blood transfusion from the demon lord Nergal. Nergal is a demon, which is enough to classify him as a demon half in this pairing. Now, when Zatanna first hit the scene, many of her adventures consisted of trying to find her birth father. This quest led her to the Justice League of America, further colliding her with other heroes, including Constantine. Now, after she found Daddy Dearest, her and John would have an on and off again affair, while he was dating one of his other love interests, Emma. This affair would always be complicated by the fact that Constantine was somewhat responsible for her father's death, having been the one who organized a seance in which her dad sacrificed himself to protect her. The romance would continue to be explored after the New 52 relaunch in the Justice League Dark, with the two of them being exes, but on good and civil terms. Now we'll be talking about some other demonic love interests of Constantine later on in our list, where he is actually the more human half. But for now, on to our next number. In at 6, my personal favorite, Mephisto and Rogue.
Oh, this pairing kills me. It is so absurd and so weird, and of course it's Rogue. Remember when she shacked up with Magneto for a hot second in the 616 and then for a long minute in the Age of Apocalypse timeline? Yeah, girls got some interesting taste in love interests, and also a thing for dudes with the letter M as their first initial. But not Gambit, he doesn't count. Once upon a time, there was a fun little miniseries called Mephisto vs. the Marvel Universe, and in it, he was all about collecting those hot female superhero souls for his lonesome self. He hit up the Invisible Woman first, then Jean Grey, and then by the third issue, he had his sights set on Rogue. Rogue's thoughts during this brief entanglement consists of her debating about whether or not she's feeling this demonic makeout. She goes through an emotional roller coaster, stating that her mind is blown by the fact that she's able to touch someone and kiss someone, but then she is triggered by the fact that it is with, I quote, a creature like Mephisto. She then gets freaked out by the fact that he is old, or as she puts it, so incredibly old. Now after they kiss, Rogue is almost mean about it, saying, I quote, "You're like me. No one ever wants to touch you, to know you. Only with you, it's like 100,000 times worse." She's basically like, oh man, my life sucks, but yours is so much worse, dude. Like, you're way more lonely than I am. And he legit responds with, bah, spare me your pity, as if he's like not hurt by it. She's so mean. Rogue then Nancy Drews his MO of taking souls as a substitute for real contact, and then she makes it about her, so he macks her some more to get her to shut up. Problematic storylines, gotta love them, but it's a demon. Anyway, long story short, Rogue absorbs his soul collecting abilities, and then he tries to use her in the 4th issue to steal Thor's soul, and then it's revealed that this was all just a convoluted scheme to screw around with Hela. Yeah. And also apparently to get some. Moving on to number 5, we have Luke Cage and Silver Sable, and Priapus. Okay, so here's a slightly odd addition to our list, and one that was done without consent, making it particularly nasty in retrospect. Consent matters. Seriously, jokes aside. Anyway, back to the silliness. It involves the demon Priapus, like I mentioned, who first graced the pages of Marvel's comics in 1993 in Terror Inc. issue 10. He is the Greek god of male fertility and horticulture. He is also a demon who is said to be very physically endowed, yet horribly ugly. A walking paradox. I'll let y'all make that call for yourselves though. He also claims that ecstasy is his life, so that's a thing apparently. In 1993, the two heroes alongside Terror fought against Priapus in a crossover story called Cage, for Love Nor Money. During the battle, Priapus incapacitates both Cage and Sable with orgasms. He does this by kissing Sable and then touching Cage on the head, and then gives him this whole long dry speech while they're just shaking there dealing with these allegedly mind-blowing orgasms. Can't even make this up, guys. And at number 4, Mystique and Azazel. X-Men member Nightcrawler is the product of a mutant and a demon rubbing nasties. Mystique, his biological mother, who is blue and has shape-shifting abilities, hooks up with Azazel after developing a crush on the Niafem. In Uncanny X-Men issue 428, Mystique, who wants to get married to the demon, learns the hard way that sometimes dudes just want a one-night stand with a blue mutant inside of a church. In the aftermath, Azazel is all like, girl, never confuse physical passion for a condition of the heart. Since the dawn of mankind, the two have rarely gone hand in hand. She's like, yeah. Whoa. But also is still like really upset about it because she does like kind of love him. He's just like the ultimate demon boy. He also impregnates her with Nightcrawler, who she is forced to abandon in order to save from an angry mob. But Azazel's like, yo, I'ma save you and then give you to my sister and then everything is dope. He did that too. He's hip, he is with the kids. And at number 3, Etrigan and Lady Xanadu and Lady Blaze. Etrigan loves the ladies. He is also another double whammy on our list. So for starters, Etrigan is Jason Blood, a mortal man bound to the demon Etrigan, meaning they share their love interests, which sometimes gets complicated. In Batman the Dark Knight issues 4 and 5 back in 2011, Etrigan makes an appearance when hunting down a demon running rampant in Gotham. Turns out this demon is a servant of Lady Blaze's, who then strikes up a deal with Etrigan to fully restore his power in exchange for him being her consort. Jason Blood is like, nah man, I'm good. Like, this chick's a demon, I think I'm going to pass. But Etrigan is like, yes please, and overpowers Jason. Etrigan eventually realizes that Blaze is lying in order to take advantage of him. Teardrop. It's not gonna get some demon boy. And then there's the R-rated romance of Etrigan and Lady Xanadu. Xanadu has a polymorphous, polyamorous relationship with Etrigan, which she gives us insight on in Demon Knights issue 8 from 2012. She agrees to be with Jason, wanting to marry him, but Etrigan wants to ensure that he is getting some action too. He states that he wants to mate with Xanadu over a long period of time, and often. Xanadu goes along with it, lying to the demon, admitting that she likes to, you not, cuckold Etrigan. Sorry kids. It's nasty. In at number 2, Constantine and a lot of other demons. Zatanna is definitely one of Constantine's higher quality hookups compared to some of the other individuals in the DC universe that he's knocked dirties with. And by quality, I mean she is human, or rather a metahuman, but that's still totally fine. She's got all the normal human bodily bits that you would expect a human being to have. But Constantine, oh, he has a variety of preferences. Yes, he does. He's hooked up with a succubus named Ellie plenty of times. Ellie's true form involves very aggressive nipples and this demonic aesthetic. Fun. He also once helped out a virgin by having sex with her and placing his demonic taint within her so she didn't have to get married to an angel. Ugh, don't you just hate when that happens, when you have to get married to an angel and then you just gotta get romantic with the demon to ensure that you just never go into heaven, or maybe just probably going to hell, and you know, it's tough. Modern dating. But there is a time worse than that for sure. In Hellblazer issue 200 from 2004, Constantine rubbed nasties with a demoness named Rosa Carnus. This occurred when he traded one day of his life in exchange for not being burned at the stake. Seems like a decent deal, right? But nah, she a demon, my dude. So she used her powers to have this day play out in 3 simultaneous possible realities in which they do the nasty and she tries to sire 3 demon messiahs. Now that's, talk about a rough one night stand. There's a lot of demonic seductresses in this, but also like I guess Mephisto was really bad. Gender parity, guys. Any demon can be a terrible demon who wants to have sex with you and ruin your life. And finally, in at number 1, saved the biggest for last, Hulk and Umar. The Hulk has had his fair share of romances, but none is as wacky as his hookup with Umar, the demon sister of the mystical entity Dormammu. She's his little sis. It's kinda hard to imagine him having any family whatsoever, but this is a thing. She also lives in a tower where she like kinda kidnaps the Hulk and then hooks up with him as seen in Defenders issue 3. And oh boy, at first he wasn't feeling it at all, so like there's some consent issues there, but then wabam. After 6 whole minutes of them doing the dirty, he can't take it. He's so overwhelmed with ecstasy that he can't keep up with her. He even reverts back to Bruce Banner afterwards. Now, keep in mind, almost nothing is capable of reverting Hulk back to Banner. Once upon a time, like the only thing that worked was puppies. So apparently Bruce Banner will not be the Hulk if you give him puppies or mind-blowing sex. Take what you will from that. Umar would make a cameo later on in The Incredible Hulk issue 633 when he was Worldbreaker Hulk. She showed up in a portal that was shaped like a mouth and chilled him out by having sex with him, of course. This time with their banging, forming a giant mushroom cloud in the process. Yeah.